Hello guys, HelipilotGh. It's good to see you guys again. And I have been receiving a lot of videos, audios, links on certain incidents with respect to aviation around the world, and even in Ghana, my country. And you know, for some of the incidents, it's very difficult for me to comment on them because of their sensitivity and the fact that I don't have clearance to do some of those things. However, for the ones I can talk about, we will talk about it. The whole idea is to share information, share knowledge, solicit ideas, and see how we can make the space safe. The world is global. Whether you like it or not, you will sit in a helicopter or an airplane from one point to another. You have no choice. Especially if you want to Jagba, forget, you have to sit in it. All right, so the recent one that happened was an incident involving a helicopter that was an approach to land at a specific um, location. Before I continue, let's watch the video. It's unfortunate that this happened. From the news, I get it that the people didn't, no lives were lost, and although some of them are in critical condition, we wish them the best. The idea is to learn from this. So, first of all, we have to know a little about helicopters. So, what are helicopters? They are rotating machines. They beat the air to submission. It works on two main principles: Newton's third law of motion and the Bernoulli's principle. So, Newton's third law will be action and reaction opposite and equal. So whilst you are going forward, something is pushing you back, good and evil. Then Bernoulli's principle will be how you can maximize airflow around uh, something what we call an airfoil, or something that can allow air to flow around it um, in a sensitive way. I like the way I put that. There are different types of helicopters. There's a traditional one in the video we saw with the cabin and the tail. And even for that one, you see they have the big fans on top, or people call them the main rotor, and then it has a tail, and at the end of the tail there's a tail rotor. They're all connected via linkages and gearboxes and rods. So there's a tail. For that tail, some have their tails in cages. We call that a fenestron. And there's one with the open tail. Based on the manufacturer, it can be left or right. And even for the main rotor, based on the manufacturer, it can spin clockwise or anti-clockwise. So that's done. And there are helicopters without a tail. An example would be the Chinook, two blades like this on top, like two main rotors. There are some with two masts with two main rotors. There are some, we call them the Nuta. They don't even have a tail rotor again. They are hybrids like the Osprey. The world is evolving, so there are so many variants. But we are going to talk about what we saw in the video, the traditional one with the main rotor and the tail rotor outside, not inside, like the fenestron. So after understanding this, how do helicopters operate? There's a control called a collective. It's like a handbrake. That is what gives you power. That's what lifts you. Hey, my grandma say lifts you up. So when you start your engine, everything, the blades are rotating. As that blade is rotating, the body wants to move in the opposite direction of the rotation. To keep it straight, you need that tail rotor at the back, at the end of the tail, and that tail rotor is connected to pedals. They keep you straight. And now, and there's a control called a collective, like I said. Once you increase the collective or raise that collective, it opens up your engine sort of, to be literal, for more fuel emission, more power. It means that your blades at the top will spin faster. While they are spinning faster, the one at the tail is spinning faster. It means you have to do more correction. All those corrections should be done. I mean, it's a continuous correction. You do it just to keep your helicopter facing a particular direction. Now, you have to make sure it does not move anyhow. So you have what you call the cyclic. So as you are preventing it from going left or right, keeping it straight, you need a cyclic to keep it at that same position. Because you may prevent it from going left or right, but you may be moving. You may prevent it from climbing, but it may be moving. So you need to use that cyclic. like what you call the stick to hold it. So you are always like this with your pedals moving. I wish you could see my legs. So you are busy. That's the truth. You are busy. After some time, it becomes second nature. If you don't do it for a while and you go back, initially you suffer small, but it comes back again. So that is the thing with helicopters. As that blade is spinning faster and going up, you are generating a lot of circular air around the blades. And then the blades will have to push as you are raising the collective or the handbrake, to be literal. You are pushing the air downwards. Newton's third law, action and reaction are opposite but equal. So pushing air down pushes the helicopter up. That's why you see them come into a hover. A hover means they are suspending. And then you see the blades cone like this. Closer the cone, the heavier you are. The wider the cone, it means you are less heavy. Now, as you are in that hover, you have pushed the air around you to be flowing down, and some of them helping you sustain the hover with the power you have. You have to go forward, right? As you push the helicopter stick forward, that's the cyclic. You push it forward, you start to move. Then now that principle we talked about as Bernoulli, airflow around an object generating what you call lift will happen. I mean, yeah, if you watch all my videos about lift and all those things, you understand it. Now, that's how the helicopter operates, just to make it as simple as possible. Uh, when helicopters are approaching certain landing spots, they don't have the privilege of air traffic control. So when you're landing at an airport, air traffic control give you altitudes or heights, to be literal again, and headings or direction. For those who don't know, these things take you clear of obstacles, other aircraft, because air traffic controllers are like the small gods. You should watch my video with the air traffic controller. He will explain a lot of that to you. They see everybody on the screen, so they can tell where you are and push you around to ensure that you are safe. You understand? Helicopters mostly don't have that privilege. Some of the places you land are so remote and out of town and congested that you have to use your senses. You have to be smart about a lot of things. That will explain why the helicopter was landing there, most likely. You see, so you realize the helicopters do a lot of out of airport operations, rig operations, train operations, firefighting. They are all out of airport. Air ambulance. In countries where there's a lot of helicopter traffic, they have the privilege of developing approaches like the normal airport that can take you to the specific landing places. They have them. But largely, helicopters don't really have that a lot around the world, as far as I know, unless somebody knows and stand to be corrected. We are all learning. Yeah. So when a helicopter is approaching a place to land, there are a lot of things you have to consider because, first of all, you are flying at a lower altitude, you are avoiding faster aircraft, you're avoiding congested traffic. So you're flying in mostly what we call VFR corridors or corridors where you can do a lot of things freely. You fly by sight, mostly under cloud with clear weather where you can have visual reference with the ground. Now you're approaching the landing spot. Again, at the airport, air traffic control can vector you or take you around to your landing spot, to the airport for you to land. You are going to a field, a park, a remote area where you may not have been there before. Even if you've been there before, there are certain things that we go through, procedures. Now, there's a high reconnaissance and a low reconnaissance. I'm assuming that this aircraft did the high reconnaissance and the low reconnaissance. With this, you are looking at the size of the place, whether you can fit in. You are looking at the nature of the surface. Is it grass? Is it tarred? Is it slopey? Is it flat? Is it straight? You're looking at the nature of that. You're looking at obstacles that will prevent you from getting to your place. And also that may prevent you from departing because as you're entering, you have to get out. You're also looking at the activity around the place. You are looking at the activity around the place. Is it an area with a lot of human activity, animal activity? Are there distractions? And also you're looking at what we call noise abatement procedures. Some people just don't like noise. I'm surprised in Ghana where we have people like to live around the airport. In other countries, people hate living around the airport because of the noise. Certain airports have noise abatement procedures, takeoff and landing procedures that reduce the noise that aircraft make. But where we are, everybody wants to live around the airport because it's like you're a rich person, a big person to live there. Sometimes I wonder. Right? That's what we are talking about. So after doing all these things, now you have to plan the approach. Normally, you plan the approach, you are looking at the direction of the wind because aircraft fly into wind. So if you are flying into you are shooting an approach to a remote area and you have some animals around, before you even get there, you would have noticed the direction of the wind. by looking at maybe cattle, their bum facing the wind. It means that's where the wind is coming from. Smoke, which is the most likely option for remote areas. Also, if there's a stream or maybe a stagnant water body, you can see the ripples, can give you a fair idea. Can get the winds from control the nearest controller, or there's a general wind pattern of a country like Ghana is mostly northeast or southwest around that time, because you can accept what we call a crosswind, wind from the side to land. And if you are close to a congested area, then you can also look at direction of flying objects if it's very windy. Some of these things can help you. Now there are even applications that can give you the wind, so you don't have a problem. So when you get the direction of the wind, now you shoot your approach to the spot. So in shooting the approach, like the aircraft did, you could see the aircraft coming direct to the spot until the point where the incident happened. So now we have explained to that point, because when you pick an approach point, or you pick the point you want to shoot approach to, that picture does not leave your eye. You must concentrate on that picture until you get to a point where you fly over it and put the aircraft down. So I'm sure it got to a point where he was almost getting close to the ground. Then the incident happened. You could see that from the video, something broke off from the tail. Something broke off from the tail. Now, when an accident happens, you don't sit down there and say what you don't know. You can only speculate. The idea is to generate conversation. I keep repeating so that you don't misinterpret me or misunderstand me. There are possible reasons for what happened. The first reason could be a failure of the gearbox. I mean, the general tail rotor area, the gearbox, maybe a shaft, maybe a linkage. That could have been a reason, because for a helicopter to spin like that, it means you've lost your tail. This could be as a result of something to do with their maintenance regime. It could be something that just happened. It's a machine. Things can happen. It could also be something with the shaft. It could be something with the linkages, the cables. It could be some stresses on the machine that had happened previously. It could even be something that just happened en route to the flight. It could even be over controlling of the aircraft. So many things can happen, especially the point where when you are raising the collective, for instance, like I mentioned, the blades spin faster. So you realize that your body wants to move in the opposite direction. So you step on what you call the power pedal. The power pedal is always at the direction of the spin. So if your blade spins to the right, the power pedal is at the right. If it spins to the left, it's at the left. So the power pedal, when you are descending and you reduce the collective, it means that you have to use your left pedal for blades that spin to the right. I know it gets confusing sometimes, but just try and follow. If you are raising the collective, you have to use the pedal on the right. If obviously you are talking about a helicopter that spins to the right, clockwise, I mean. So there's a switch of that when you're about landing. Because when you're landing, it means that because the blade spins to the right, when you're lowering collective, you have to use the left pedal. Then now when you're getting close to the hover, now you switch to right pedal, because you need to raise the collective to maintain hover. So you see how confusing it can be. Let me repeat myself. For a blade that spins to the right, the power pedal, that's when you raise the collective or your handbrake. As the blades spin faster, you have to keep the nose straight. So you use the power pedal, which is the right, because the blade spins to the right. For those that spin left, that's the blades on top. The power pedal is on the left. So let's assume that the helicopter is getting close to the ground. Once you are lowering the collective, you must use the left pedal because you are lowering. Now, when you're getting close to the hover where you need to sustain yourself, then you have to raise the collective. It means that you have to use the power pedal. So anytime you raise collective, use power pedal. So the power pedal, which in this case is the right pedal. For the helicopter that was involved in the incident, it will be the other way around, because American machines spin anti-clockwise. So it's the same explanation, but the other way around. So some of these things could also have contributed if the pilot is not an experienced pilot, or was not an experienced pilot. But we cannot sit here and say whether he was experienced or not. We can only speculate and look at the possible causes. But for the fact that something broke off, it means that it could be something mechanical. But again, investigations will tell us. We are just having a discussion to look at how these things happen. But for everything, the approach was shot very well, which we are glad that he was able to some way find himself with the passengers for, cushioned by the tree. We train for some of these things, but looking at the way the blade spins, it's very difficult if these things happen to you at altitude. Because by the time you have two spins, you are knocked out. But fortunately, they hit some trees and the trees sort of cushioned them. It would have been worse if they had hit the ground. But at least the trees cushioned them. That's what I can say about it. Some of these things, it's very difficult to say, sit in your room and say, oh, you should have done it, should have done that. Accidents do happen. That's why I always insist that maintenance regimes should be followed religiously. If it is not good, fix it, because there's always this domino effect of bad habits that become cultural. Now, when you want to change it, the system makes you look like you too know, I the first to do this, I the first to know this. But you could see that it's a systemic flaw that could result in a tragedy. And that happens a lot with aviation companies and institutions where they practice something for a long time, but nothing happens. So we go and come. But if you sit down and do the analysis, you realize that certain habits have become culture. And this culture really affects or could affect the safety of the aircraft. And also, the thing about aviation is that incidents, they sort of alert you. So maybe one will happen, something will happen like, oh, we have managed it. Then the next one becomes more serious than the previous. Then the next one becomes more, then it gets to a point where now lives are lost and there's a problem. So that is why some of these things are important. These discussions are important so that we can find a way to sort of manage these situations. It's very important. We hope that these things don't happen. We cannot stop them totally from happening, but we can only learn from incidents like these and try to improve aviation safety. And also, it's good for us that just listen and are not really aviation practitioners, like just the enthusiasts. Even if you're not an enthusiast, it's good to know. So when these things happen, fake news, speculation, assumptions are informed, so to say. So thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this and you want to get to know more about helicopters, I have a lot of videos on helicopters, aviation generally. So I'm out. Cheers, HelipilotGh.